Greetings and welcome to the Mid-Missouri Kayak and Weather Report for October 2019. On October 4th, Friday at 11:30 in the morning, the temperature is 61 degrees. We're headed for a high of 67. Yes, we're breaking the weather. Yesterday we had mid-60s. Today, but then tomorrow back to the mid-80s. Yeah. I'm on the Moreau River. I launched at the Honey Creek Access. And it's interesting how the bottom can change because the water's way low on the ramp, but not as low as it has been. But when I thought I would have to push my way over this gravel bar that I typically have to push my way over, I did not have to. So that was kind of interesting. But then I got a little further, and there's where Honey Creek comes into the Moreau River. And there is a gravel bar that I don't typically see. I think it's usually underwater, but that shows you how they can build up and be washed away, you know, just like that. So that was kind of cool, and it was soft. I could push my paddle in a foot all the way to the end of the black on my paddle. So it's a nice little lesson there. I am at, there's a horsefly. I am at my favorite rock overhang in a bluff there. And it's a different angle though. I decided to take it from a different angle. There's this big rock right here next to me which comes up at an angle out of the river. And right next to it is a flat rock which is at a slight pitch and it's just barely underwater. Usually it's a little more underwater. Sometimes it's exposed. So I paddled right up on it, so I am perfectly firm. And so it's a new angle. I have seen two kingfishers, a couple of bank swallows, turkey vultures of course, and I just saw a bald eagle. It flew from a tree about 100 yards from me, went another 20 yards further away, stopped in a tree there, and then went to the next tree. So now it's about 150 yards away. And when it went to that tree, it spooked out a great blue heron, which flew overhead here, which was really kind of cool. And now the eagle has taken flight again, and it's coming this way. It's coming this way. I'm going to turn the camera around. Well, that was pretty cool, and I'm sure I didn't capture it very well with the video because it was hard to zoom in and frame it. I was hoping to paddle down there and take a picture of it, but I guess that's not in the cards. I haven't seen any eagles while I'm out paddling in a while, so that was a little bit of rattling here. That was a pleasant surprise. Yeah. So, kayaking, Moreau River, weather. The Missouri River is higher than it was, that week ago, where I was on the high section of the Moreau, which is only less than a mile from the Missouri River. Here I am probably 5 miles away and 10 to 15 miles as the river winds, and you wouldn't know because obviously that high river Missouri River water is not going to reach here. That's all, as I've talked before, coming from Gavin's Point Dam in South Dakota when they release the water there when they have a heavy rain. As it turns out, last month they had twice their normal rain. So yeah, the weather is wacky, isn't it? Here we are, the hottest September last month. It tied with 1897, and everybody's getting wet. Speaking of wet, the heavy rain that we had back in August washed out a tree in my yard. Well, it didn't wash it out. It just softened the ground so much on the slope that the roots, which were rotted out, they were like pulp, just gave way and it toppled. It was probably 60 feet high, and it fell right against the top of the chimney at the edge of the house. I heard a crash, and I could hear the flue rattling. I was in the living room when it happened. I hear the fireplace flue kind of rumble, but it was like that. It wasn't thunder. It was just really quick. Couldn't figure out what it was, and then Bonnie saw it when she came home. She looked out the kitchen window, and there's that tree just laying right across there. The top 15 feet or so of it broke off, and there are these branches, like 3 to 4 inches big, just lying on the ground from the very top of the tree. And it fell right down in the fork of a redbud tree. And like that, and it split it right to the ground. It was like 3 feet split right to the ground. So it killed that tree. Broke off a bunch of branches near the top, and this was just 2 days before we drove to Buffalo for Alyssa's wedding, so I couldn't leave it there like that. I had to get the redbud, which was against the side of the house, down. So the next day I went out there and cut up the redwood tree, or redbud tree, redwood, and used a chainsaw to cut the top 12 foot or so of that hickory tree which had fallen down. And it was totally choked by ivy. It's been like that. It's been a dead tree since we moved in 2013. And there was ivy on an adjacent oak that was choking it out. It barely had any green. And when I killed all the ivy on that, I brought that tree back to life. I was really pleased about that. This hickory was dead. And it had a slight lean uphill towards my neighbor's house. I kind of wondered about that, but I thought, maybe it'll fall downhill. It did. I'm lucky it didn't hit the deck. It would have really messed up the deck. Didn't hurt the chimney though. No. So I cut that stuff up, piled it up. I took all the branches from the redbud tree and made 3 huge piles of those, and started taking the ivy off the tree so I could cut it with the chainsaw. You know, and I cut off the 10 foot, cut it into fireplace lengths, piled it up, and went to Buffalo. Now when we came back, it was, well, September was a record high month. So I didn't get to do anything for a couple of weeks. It was just too hot to work outside. And actually it was about a week. And I went out there with the chainsaw. I cut it up into fireplace length, 15, 18 inches, piled it all up. I had a pile of that ivy. Some of it was 1.5 inches thick. It was big. It was like another tree growing on that dead tree. That pile was as big as any of the redbud piles of tree topping. So I let that sit there now in the heat for a couple of weeks. And then we had this break in the weather yesterday and today. Yeah. There goes a kingfisher. So we had to break in the weather, so I went out there yesterday and I cut all those toppings up into 2 foot lengths, threw them in my car, took 5 trips to the yard waste site. They won't take anything bigger than 6 inches in diameter. So all that firewood that I have with a gas burning fireplace, because I had it switched over when I bought the house, all that firewood, now I've got to find the neighbor who can take it. Yeah. The stump itself is broken right out of the ground. You can see how the roots were just pulp and they're just washed right out. So I've got that, so it's like about an 80-pound chunk. I can throw that in a wheelbarrow, and I've got heavy brush in one part of the lower section of my yard. I can take it down there and just get it out of the way. Yeah. Nothing else I can do with it. I suppose I could bring it along and throw it in a kayak and dump it in the river, right? Yeah, it wouldn't be room for me. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Weather, 80s, a couple days of 60s, back to 80s. The river levels up, levels down. Here, who knows? And wildlife. And a dead tree. Yeah, and going at 9 minutes. Yeah, man, I was hoping to get downstream to get a picture of that eagle too. Yeah, I'll keep my eyes peeled. Maybe it'll be back by the ramp when I get back there. Yeah, this river is really changing. Day to day. High, low, who knows. Anyway, it's time to go. This has been your Mid-Missouri Kayak and Weather Report for October 2019. Ciao, folks. And vlog on. And we miss you, Dave.